Hi again, I know that.
It's a party.
Alright. Are you ready? Okay, we're ready. Doctors. It's never gonna get old, just to let you know. It will never get old.
You know, I'm a fake internet reverend.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order this hybrid workshop voting meeting of the Highland Park Board of Education from Tuesday, February 24th. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting, setting forth the time, date, and location to be submitted for publication to the Home News Tribune and Courier News and posted on the board's website at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Members of the public who wish to address the board will be given the opportunity to do so before the board adjourns for the evening. Roll call.
Dr. Beatty, Ms. Cassell Dunn, Dr. Coleman, Mr. Maldonado,
Here.
Dr. Pixley, Miss.
Wait, come back, go back to Mr. Doctor School. Oh, did you call him?
No.
Oh, okay, he was making a face.
I always make a face.
Okay.
That's my natural face.
Miss Bruce.
Did something?
Here.
Dr. Schoolman,
Here.
Miss Stanio,
Here.
Miss Varnman.
Here. I had to think about that. So be it resolved pursuant to the Sunshine Act, NJSA, the Highland Park Board of Education will now meet in closed session to discuss a residency hearing and legal counsel. These exemptions are permitted to be discussed in closed session in accordance with NJSA 10:4 through 13. Information regarding the board's closed session discussion will be disclosed to the public as soon as the need for confidentiality no longer exists. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Got for JB? All right, thank you.
Roll call.
Oh, sorry. Dr. Beatty,
Here.
Miss Cassell Dunn,
Here.
Dr. Coleman, Mr. Maldonado, Dr. Pixley, Miss Bruce,
Here.
Dr. Schoolman, Miss Stanio, Miss Varnman.
Here. Okay, and now for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we will move on to our communications. We had a email about tenure status and an email about discipline and policy concerns. And then we have more than 50 emails about the student ICE protest. Okay, now we go to approval of minutes. I move.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Miss Cassell Dunn, Mr. Maldonado,
Yes.
Miss Bruce,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Miss Stanio,
Yes.
Miss Varnman.
Yes.
Let's do.
Yeah.
Probably do the thing.
Yeah.
So.
So normally this would be where we do the student representative report, but they didn't have school today. So, so I think we'll just skip by that. And I would like to give a president's report. So first, I'd like to address the events that occurred last Friday when some students at the Highland Park High School participated in a national walkout to protest the Department of Homeland Security's immigration enforcement efforts. Dr. Siska will get into the specifics of what actually occurred during her remarks. But I wanted to state very clearly that we are extraordinarily proud of our students for standing up for their beliefs, standing up for their neighbors, standing up for everyone's constitutional rights, and for being civically engaged. To quote Senator Andy Kim in reference to this specific incident, I believe the opposite of democracy is apathy. So to the students, if you're wondering if you made a difference, you got the attention of the community and you got the attention of a United States Senator. I also want to clarify the role of the Board of Education in this matter, because I want to assure everyone that we have heard the community loud and clear concerning disciplinary actions following the walkout. The board has no legal right to administer the schools nor interfere with their day-to-day operations. We're not Highland Park school administrators, and none of us are employees of the school district. Additionally, the board has no role to play when it comes to any kind of appeal of a short-term suspension. Both state regulation and our own policy state that in order to challenge a short-term suspension, a student or parent shall appeal directly to the Commissioner of Education, bypassing the board entirely. And finally, board members are legally prohibited from publicly commenting on pending disciplinary matters or undermining staff decisions. Doing so would violate state ethics requirements and could expose the district to legal liability. Please do not interpret our lack of discussion of these specific matters as disregard for the concerns or questions expressed after the events or during this evening's meeting. We will follow up on these concerns within the scope of our role as a board and in collaboration with the administration. And I just want to thank everyone, anyone who's taken the time to come tonight, if you're listening online, and share their perspectives. We welcome civic participation from our community, just as we encourage it among our students. It is part of why I think for all of us here, we chose to live in this town and have chosen to serve in this capacity. It's your turn.
All right, good evening, everyone. Before I get to the more formal part of my report tonight, first, thank you, Anne, and I'd like to follow up. So first, I'd like to address the events that occurred last Friday as well, when some students at Highland Park High School participated in a national walkout to protest the Department of Homeland Security's immigration enforcement efforts. Approximately 150 students participated in that action in coordination with the school administration. A smaller number of students participated in an action where they left school grounds in order to bring awareness to the broader community by marching down Raritan Avenue. This was down outside the bounds of what had been coordinated with the administration, was not communicated with school officials beforehand, and was done against the direction of school officials during the action. I would like to acknowledge the complexity of the situation we faced last week with our student walkout. These were thoughtful, engaged young people exercising their voice on an issue they cared deeply about. It was a challenging moment, but I'm profoundly proud of our students for standing up for what they believe is right and for doing so with thoughtfulness, care, and respect. As educators and administrators, our role is to guide, support, and protect students while also holding them accountable. Civil disobedience, by its nature, comes with consequences, and part of growing up is understanding that actions have results. Our goal is always to turn moments like this into learning experiences. In this case, I hope students will wear their engagement, even the consequences that come with it, like a badge of honor, a reflection of their courage and commitment to the world around them. Teaching civics is not always easy. It's one thing to discuss rights, responsibilities, and civic engagement in the classroom, and another to witness young people exercising those rights in real life. Moments like this are challenging, but they are also an invaluable opportunity to reinforce the principles of citizenship, ethical decision-making, and critical thinking. We will continue to use experiences like this to strengthen how we teach civics and empower students to participate meaningfully in our democracy. Some students shared reflections with me that I'd like to highlight. One student said, "We broke multiple rules and disregarded the authorities of the school. I at least did it knowingly, understanding that consequences would follow. It's your job to keep us safe and hold us accountable, and it's not fair for you to make exceptions when it comes to punishments. Contrastingly, I believe that it's my job to stand up and use my voice, and the opportunity presented itself." Another student said, "I'm sorry for causing everyone such a big headache. I know that you have really hard jobs and dealing with a bunch of teenagers can't be easy. But I also hope you can understand thought what we were doing was right and important for our town and for the people we care about, and that we felt like we were part of a bigger action happening at a lot of other schools." These perspectives show that our students are learning, reflecting, and growing. Exactly the outcomes we hope to see in our schools. I'm reminded of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words from Letter from a Birmingham Jail. "An individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and who willingly accepts the penalty is in reality expressing the highest respect for the law." While our students did not break the law, they acted in the spirit of this reflection, choosing to make their voices heard while accepting the consequences of their actions. Finally, I want to acknowledge the difficulty and uncertainty of these times. Our students' actions show me that they care about the world, their neighbors, and each other. We all, administration, staff, families, and community members, have learned from this experience. It reinforces the importance of clear communication, thoughtful guidance, and trust between adults and students. I'm grateful for the opportunity to grow alongside our students and reaffirm my pride in their character, their courage, and their commitment to our community. Thank you. Now I'd like to move on to the rest of my report. So first and foremost, thank you everybody for coming out today. The winter weather has been trying on all of us, but I'm first of all want to share my sincere thanks to our custodial staff and maintenance staff under the direction of our director, John Flanagan. They've done a tremendous job of clearing the school grounds, our parking lots, and sidewalks to be able to get to school. So I'm excited for a full day of instruction tomorrow. So thank you for that and for being here in person with us for those that are here. But due to the inclement weather, we did postpone part A of my agenda, which is the staff recognition of Teacher of the Year, Educational Services Professional of the Year, and the mid-year retirements. We will hold that in June when the weather is a little bit better. So we will be recognizing all of those staff on June 22nd. So please mark your calendars. Lastly, for my report, I'd like to give the mid-year update on the Student Safety Data System Report, SSDS. So I'm just going to make my way over to the board here. So our SSDS report for the Student Safety Data System collects two types of information. So this is our report that we have to give twice a year. So the two types of information that it collects are incidences of violence, vandalism, harassment, intimidation, or bullying, weapon offenses, substance offenses, restraints, seclusions, and other incidences leading to removal from the instructional time in school. And it also reports our HIB trainings and programs. So our deadlines so we do it in two reporting periods. So this is the first reporting period, which will include data from September 1 through December 31st. And then you'll get a second half of the year report over the summer. So I know we do this twice a year, but I just want to reorient if it's the first time that you're hearing it because the data is a little nuanced. So in terms of the reporting, a single incident can consist of multiple incident types. So we can have multiple offenses for one incident. For example, a student might make a criminal threat toward another student while holding a knife. This would be entered into SSDS as single incident of criminal threat and weapon use. In addition, there could be multiple offenders or multiple incidences. So when you see the numbers, sometimes it is very nuanced like that. So some common definitions from our SSDS report. When we report a fight, so these are clear definitions that come from the state when we report SSDS. So for a fight, it's a mutual engagement in a physical confrontation in which the offenders understand that confrontation might result in bodily injury to either party. It doesn't include a verbal confrontation or a minor confrontation, such as a shoving match. So if students are shoving and that's it, that wouldn't be qualified as a fight under the SSDS report. And then in that case, each participant must be classified as the offender. An assault is defined as a person attempts to cause or purposely, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury to another person. A physical restraint is the use of a personal restraint that immobilizes or reduces the ability of a student to move all or a portion of their body. So sometimes we have to do this if a student is a threat to themselves or others, but our staff are trained in handle with care, which is the proper technique in the event that verbal de-escalation doesn't work, then we have to go into a handle with care situation. Simple threat is attempting by physical menace to put another in fear of bodily injury. So a verbal threat, the offender knew that the threat could make the victim fearful. So that would be a simple threat. And then you'll see there are other incidences leading to removal. So any other incident not listed in the guidebook that takes place on or off school grounds that results in a disciplinary removal for at least 1/2 day must be reported. So if we remove students from their instructional programming in school or out of school suspension for a 1/2 day or more, and it's not in those categories, it gets categorized under other incidences leading to removal. So here is the data from September through December. So at high school, they had one total incident that was substances. Middle school had 15 total incidences. 2 were violence, 1 vandalism, 7 substances, 2 weapons, and 3 confirmed HIB. Bartle had 3 total incidences, and the 3 were violence. And Irving reported 0. And of the violent incidences in the middle school, 2 of the incidences were 2 fights. And then Bartle's school, the 3 incidences, 1 was an assault and 2 were fights. So when you break down the violence incidences, because it can either be assault or a fight. For the high school, they had 6 incidences leading to removal. They had 1 alleged HIB. They report 14 completed trainings for the first half of the year with 9 programs completed. The middle school had 13 incidences of removing students from the instructional time for other reasons. 1 alleged HIB. They've completed 21 trainings and 0 programs completed. Bartle had 1 incident leading to removal, other incident leading to removal, 1 alleged HIB, 12 trainings completed and 34 programs. And Bartle had no other incidents leading to removal, no alleged HIBs. They had 2 restraints, 7 trainings completed, and 21 programs completed. So comparison to period 1. So this is just period 1 to period 1. So not the whole year. So because we're not there yet. So this was this time last year. Where were we at? The red indicates last year's reporting, and the black is this year's. So for the high school last year at this time, we had 7 total incidences, and now we're at 1. And so you can see the ones from last year were violence and substance, and 1 confirmed HIB. For the middle school last year, they had 14 incidences at this time, and we have an uptick of 1 incident. At Bartle, they had 3 last year at this time, and we're reporting 3 this year. And Irving is flat, still at 0. Additionally, last year at this time, high school had 4 incidences, other incidents leading to removal versus the 6 this year. Middle school had 33 last year to 13 this year. Bartle 3 last year and 1 this year. And then Irving, none. Irving last year had 9 restraints, and I want to point out that halfway through the year they're at 2, so that number is down, which is which is great. That means we're able to de-escalate situations more verbally without having to put students in physical restraint, which is good. That's it. So I will open up to questions from the board. Can you please, Mike.
Can you remind us what the trainings completed and programs completed means? I might have asked this question
Yes.
last time, I forgot.
Sure. I'll add it as another slide. I can add it as another slide as we do this. Trainings completed would be any kind of trainings about SSDS, about HIB trainings. So that would be if we have the district attorney coming in and doing a training on legal updates to HIB. We get all of our trainings. The board gets training. So if the board, when they come in and talk about HIBs with you all, that's a completed training. So usually they get trainings every year, specifically about the forms they have to use, how they have to report it. They get mandatory trainings in our safe schools every year on what qualifies for a HIB. So those would be the specific trainings. And then the programs completed would be anything that's culture and climate. Sometimes they don't realize what they're doing is a program. So we've been kind of encouraging them to document. So you'll see a lot at the elementary school, specifically around, they do a lot of work with responsive classroom, whole school meetings, anything that's like social emotional learning and culture and climate for all the students. So it can't just be like, I do this in my classroom as an individual teacher, and that's a program completed. It has to be like a school-wide program. So that's why you'll see typically there's more around that at the elementary, just because they do a lot of more whole school type of programs. But anything where they'll do character education programming, especially at middle and high school, that would be a program if they have some sort of assembly, diversity day, things like that. Those are programs completed for culture and climate.
So trainings, we're talking about staff trainings.
Correct. Or adult trainings.
Okay, right, yeah. In programs, we're talking about programs for students.
Correct.
Okay. So I think it's interesting how the trainings have gone up, particularly in middle school and high school, as our numbers of incidents seem to be going down. And I'm just kind of curious. I don't know if that's, there's a relationship there that you think, particularly at the middle school. I mean, the numbers are not the other incidents in particular, but even the high school incidents seem to be going down. I'm just curious if you think there's some relationship with our trainings and what they're doing for staff and helping them kind of manage students, or if that's just kind of a byproduct of having new staff who are kind of going through this. I don't know.
Yeah, so at the middle school in particular, we have a new school counselor. So getting that staff member trained. We also have another, so the Mr. Spino and then Dr. Richardson are now the anti-bullying specialists. So a lot of training has been happening there with them. I know Dr. Richardson has been doing a lot of work, especially with affirmative action and training on being an anti-bullying specialist. So there's been a lot more culture and climate work that's been done and training in that regards. I will say that the new, since last year when we started the district-wide, the NJ SCI climate survey, however you pronounce that acronym. So that climate survey is really phenomenal because it's so granular. I know we were looking at it in Equity and Excellence, and I was trying to show them how granular you can get with the data. And not only that, but once you get granular with the data, it gives you recommendations. And so what we're seeing, and maybe not so much the training, but more the programming too, but even the training is, we need some help in that area. So if it's a staff specific training, we can put that into place. And then if it's a program, we can do that as well. So I think that the data coming from that has been really helpful for the school climate teams to really look at and figure out what their needs are. So this will be my pitch to anybody who gets the link. Please take it. So if you're a parent, guardian, a student, please take the survey when it comes out. This year, we're going to do it twice. That way we can look kind of pre and post for it, but you get super granular with looking at specific recommendations. I think that's been helpful. Having some new staff on board has been helpful too, to get a lot more training in and a lot more learning and building culture and climate has been really positive. Other questions from the board?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's what these numbers really say to me is that, well, first of all, they're very impressive. And I know you've worked really hard on this for years. The whole staff has. What these numbers say to me is that the culture is changing. It's not just a reduction in incidents, but it's an increase in knowledge and awareness and techniques. I just feel like that was what we were hoping for. That it wasn't just going to be like, okay, let's, cut the numbers, but nothing underlying changes. Like this is self-reinforcing. And yeah, just it's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I did just want to kind of put a reminder out there that New Jersey state regulation does require an out of school suspension for drug paraphernalia and drug use or substance use, let's say. So very often, that's something that we can't work around. So when we see numbers that are higher, like for example, that are higher this year in the middle school, those are reflected in our suspension numbers. So I think that's just something important to remember is that it's a mandate. We can't work around that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And we do see a little bit more of that happening at the middle level, unfortunately, which is kind of sad to think about. It shouldn't be happening at all, but especially when their brains are still really toward the latter half of their developmental process. So we're seeing that. I will say that Miss Karen Lane, who's our student assistance counselor, has been doing wonderful work. We have peer groups that have been turkeying substance use and abuse programming at our elementary levels. So we're hoping to see that peer-to-peer support happen. But we need the support of families too. If students are struggling out there, we can get them help and support. But oftentimes that comes with parent permission and parent support. So, it takes a village. And so we want to make sure we'd love to get that number down, especially with substances. But I will say in the particular case, so that number is actually indicative, I believe, of only 2 students. So that's, perspective. So it's not that 7 students, have 7 separate incidences of substances. It's actually 2 students and multiple times that they're having some substance use issues in school. So really, really try and work hard to work with families when students are in need. So that's why I talk about that caveat in the beginning. When you see the numbers, you're like, oh, 7, we didn't move the needle anywhere, but actually we did because our number last year was more students. So even though it's the same number reported, it's less students. So that's hopeful. We're not where we want to be yet. Of course, I don't want any student to have to be on this report. But the fact that the numbers of students having substance use is going down means our programming is working. So that's what the numbers look like. So it's hard to break it off just because student discipline is also highly confidential. So that's why you see the numbers in that general form. Okay, thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay, so now we're going to move into the first public comment section of our evening. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. We'll start with anyone here in person who would like to speak. Oh.
Should I write on this? Fill this out? Hi, my name is Rebecca Hirsch. I live at 331 Felton Avenue. I just want to speak tonight regarding the disciplinary response to the student walkout. I just have 2 points. First, disciplinary consequences should not impair a student's access to education or academic opportunity. Detention, restorative measures, and loss of privileges are appropriate tools for accountability. However, altering grades, refusing to accept completed work, or removing students from instructional time through suspension shifts that discipline into the academic domain. I would hope that academic evaluation would measure mastery of content, not function as an extension of punishment for disciplinary infractions. When grades are affected, the consequence moves beyond correction and begins to shape long-term academic trajectory. Second, the student handbook articulates a progressive discipline framework that emphasizes repeated or continued levels of misconduct as the basis for escalating tiers of intervention. The narrative descriptions of levels 2 and 3 focus on persistent behavior and ongoing harm, yet the conduct action table assigns maximum tiers to specific infractions without clearly reconciling that progressive structure. For a first-time, time-limited incident, nonviolent incident where harm and intent were limited, the spirit of the handbook's framework suggests a tier 1 response centered on reflection and restoration rather than escalation. Accountability matters and safety matters, and I have not heard anyone say that there should be no consequences whatsoever. I've never heard anyone say that. There should be consequences, but proportionality, consistency, and context matter. And ensuring academic opportunity is not diminished should always be the first goal of a school district and of educators. There are punishments available that do not do academic harm to students. Detention, extra work, community service, the list is long. I urge the district to ensure that suspension and academic penalties are not used in a manner that undermines educational opportunity, and that the disciplinary responses remain aligned with the progressive philosophy articulated in our district's own handbook. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there anyone else here in person who would like to speak? Okay, do we have anyone online? And just before you go ahead, please state your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Rob Scott. I live at 25 South 2nd Avenue. You can hear me?
Yes.
All right. Bear with me. It's been a long day. I'm tired. I need to consult my notes here. When I learned of the suspensions of perhaps 30, 40, I've also heard 56 students over their protest against ICE, I was utterly dismayed. And I don't even really know what to say to it, because it was an action that seemed entirely out of step with the values of the community that I live in, with great neighbors, inclusion of immigrants, respect for all humans, and the students were exercising their voice, reflecting those values. So I will be honest that when I first thought about what I should say today, I was tempted to restrict my testimony to my name, my address, this is a test, and F-ICE. But I wouldn't have said F-ICE. The euphemism, I would have said the word. Fortunately, my daughter is wise and said, Dad, that might be counterproductive. And I wonder if the pearl clutching over a profanity would have garnered more outrage than what is happening in the country now that so many of us seem to be asleep to. Anyway, actions have consequences. I'm an adult. I can value them. I took my daughter's advice. The consequences of the profanity would just be a distraction. But the thing is, ICE is a complete horror. We have armed, masked paramilitaries roving through major cities, disappearing people on the basis of their skin color, or really just to collect a bounty in many cases. Those people who are disappeared are taken to other states. They're held in places where there are measles outbreaks. Children held in these places have their art materials confiscated because they drew something that said they just want to go to school. So our students were speaking to that. And the frame of all of this is happening because ICE is not following the law. They're not respecting the law, and they're not following the law. And this is very clear. There have been many lower court decisions that I would describe as these judges are apoplectic. they are horrified. Yet our president and his lackeys encourage this, demand this. The cruelty seems to be the point. So I'm bothered that the suspensions were, I think, disproportionate and don't reflect our values. The superintendent, I forget the exact words, but there was something about how we're supposed to do learning and growing. So part of learning and growing means doing things differently in the future. It means adjusting. It also means in the moment, taking what we've learned in the past and using some discretion. So part of learning and growing is changing. So I heard from the board, we can do nothing. And I'm not surprised to hear that the lawyers have advised them of this. And that's fine. I don't think the board should be taking a heavy hand in disciplinary proceedings. But the board does have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to make policy. So what the board can do is change policy. And what the board can speak to today is based upon a news event, okay? You don't even have to think of it as the Highland Park news event. There were suspensions, I think, in some other districts, a few. Most districts did not do this. You could say, maybe Rebecca Hirsch is right. Consider her analysis and be like, perhaps we need to change the policy. We need to better align whatever the consequences are going to be, the punishments, with our times and make them more proportionate. So to the board, change policy. To the super, are you the one that made the call? Was it the principal? Because the policy is always interpreted. Somebody makes the call. I think we in the community have a right to know who made the call. And to whoever made the call and to the super who could have overruled it, you have discretion. You can exercise it. I hope you find a way to exercise it in this case. And I hope you find a way to stop, think about the values of the community you live in. Think about the values that those students are reflecting and exercise some discretion. Because I think part of this whole actions have consequences is about taking some responsibility. I'd like to see some responsibility of, yeah, I made the call. I issued the order, right? Next, I wanted to sort of dig into this whole refrain of, oh, actions have consequences. That's a truism. You know, a hot stove, you don't touch it. Baby doesn't know that. Baby might touch the hot stove. And then they learn, right? But those are consequences from the laws of physics. The wonderful thing about a democracy, the thing that I think so many forget, the thing that our Congress seems to have forgotten, is we, the people, we get to decide the appropriate consequences. We make law, right? The school board makes policy. Discretion gets exercised. In our highest law of the land, in the Constitution, there's a provision for pardons, right? Abused now by our president to create an elite culture of impunity where all of the privileged are excused perpetually, pardoned again and again, pardoned for insurrection, pardoned for high financial crimes. I suspect Donald Trump would like to pardon Prince Andrew, who, ironically, it's a British prince that is experiencing more consequences than any elite in this country, more consequences than the ICE agents who killed people, right? So I think we really need to think about this whole actions have consequences and this incredible zeal to potentially damage irrevocably the college admissions and college opportunities of some of these students, because some colleges still demand a report of a suspension. So one thing the board could do is change the policy in the future. The board could also make a policy today that allows a suspension to be expunged from a student's record after some restorative process. That would create a situation where no student in Highland Park who has a bright future at a college experiences an extreme and disproportionate consequence. So the thing is, we get to decide the consequences. This is a democracy. That's what we get to do. And I desperately hope that the board and the super will take this to heart and make change in the future, and do better. Do better. Thank you. I'm sorry, but I can't see the meeting anymore.
Is there anyone else online who would like to speak? If so, please raise your hand.
Or online? 25. So we're, oh. Oh, okay.
Do they have a name? Nancy?
Oh, so, oh, okay.
Yeah, Christine, if you'd like to speak, you can go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Christine Hirsch, 333 Felton Avenue. Just real quick, I just wanted to share that I agree with what everybody has said, but it's like one thing I wish the district would do is have the foresight to plan ahead, to have made this situation better, to have communicated to students about what the actual consequences would have been. Because I guarantee you, if those consequences had been shared, not just you're going to be punished, this or this might happen, but to say you will be suspended, and suspension means they're children and they should have been educated in that beforehand, not after. And I also think it would have been important to share this with parents. The fact that the whole day was rearranged. There was time allotted into the schedule and parents weren't informed about this. We could have, as parents, have made better educated decisions to support our children not getting in trouble by signing them out, et cetera, so the school wouldn't have been liable. Just looking at the whole picture, in general, communication is just so important. And I just hope you hear that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Sorry, no hand.
Sorry. Okay, Mike, you can go ahead.
Hi, sorry, Mike Nalepa, 27 North 7th Avenue. I just wanted to say I agree with everything that's been stated before. I'm the parent of one of the children who was involved in the walkout and the subsequent walk down Raritan Avenue. And I really hope too that I think a lot of things could have been handled better in this whole situation, and I think a lot of mistakes were made by a lot of people. And I again agree with the statement that the kids knew that they were breaking rules. They knew that there would be a punishment. I'm sure none of them thought that suspension would be part of what's involved. And it seems like the process also for suspending kids for infractions wasn't followed. And so I think it's also important to highlight the fact that it's important that administrators and people in charge know the rules. They're in charge of enforcing the rules, and it's really important that the rules that we come up with together as a school district, as a town, that we understand how those are actually supposed to be enforced fairly. Again, a lot of these kids are, I think, getting a real education from this entire process. And unfortunately, I think they're learning a lot of the hard lessons that we learn in life, that sometimes, again, rules are not enforced fairly or not enforced fairly across the board in all situations. And when again, I think there were some other lessons that could have been learned from this event that were not, and that's unfortunate. And again, I think it is important that our district reflect the values of our town, and I don't think in this episode that's what took place. Again, a lot of these kids are not that, again, everyone should be treated fairly under the law, and I think that suspensions really are most warranted in episodes where things become violent. And again, this was not violent. This was very peaceful. And yeah, sorry, this is a little bit rambling, but again, I hope that everyone can learn from this situation. And I hope, again, also something else that would be nice would be the kids all wrote statements. The kids all apologized. Some of them met with the administration to do the same thing. It would be nice that the administration apologized to the kids for the parts where they kind of didn't rise to the level of expectations and again, carry out their duties appropriately. Thank you.
Is there anyone else with their hand raised?
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Clara Scott. My address is 25 South 2nd Avenue. I would like to speak on behalf of, I feel like, the students of Highland Park, those who were suspended and those watching this. I recently graduated Highland Park High School in 2023, so not that long ago. I feel like we've heard a lot from parents and concerned adults in our community, and I would like to say that while, we heard 2 letters from 2 of the estimated 50 students who have gotten in trouble for this, I don't think that echoes the broader consensus of this, which is a lot of anxiety and fear. You suspended students for a planned walkout that was being supervised. Students who are looking to, graduate and go on to bigger things after high school. These students are now going to have a suspension on their record that will be taken into consideration by colleges, by, people offering scholarships. As this grows to affect, their grades, that also becomes a concern, like Rebecca shared. I would not want this to reflect my academic standing if I were a Highland Park student at this time. This is a walkout that I would have partaken in as a student. It's a walkout I have partaken in as a college student. This is deeply unfair. I work as a residential advisor at my college. I spend a lot of time educating my residents on our policies. They know what punishment, what conduct policy, what procedures happen when they break our policies. It doesn't seem like we've spent a lot of time educating students on that. That is another concern. And yet again, I feel like the punishment does not fit the crime here. Suspension is very serious. It does get reflected when these students are going forward to apply for college and scholarships and life after high school. I think it's silly that you did not consider detention first. I have seen people given detention for greater issues, I feel like, than stepping off of school property during school hours. I really, really urge you to reconsider suspension. I think this is absurd. I am unsurprised and yet appalled nonetheless. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online with their hand raised? Okay, in that, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I wasn't going to talk. Nishama Marcus, 74 Lawrence Avenue. It's a very emotional process, by the way. I wrote all of my concerns in an email, so I don't think that and I had addressed them to everybody here, so I don't think it's helpful reiterating, and I support, the other parents and students and alumni. My kid is participating in a program this year to learn how to lobby to elected officials. I picked my kid up from school. They popped in the car cheering and celebrating a kid who doesn't cheer and celebrate. We started driving immediately to DC to visit our family in preparation for the President's Day weekend. For 2 hours, we talked about injustice and how to channel our efforts. And for anyone that has a teen, spending 2 hours talking to your kid is very challenging, right? Maintaining that kind of a conversation is very meaningful. And 2 hours into our drive, we got an email that deflated all of the enthusiasm and citizenship. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, we're going to close the first public comment section and move on to board committee reports and recommendations. Dan, start with curriculum.
All right, curriculum instruction met on February 12th. A few items to discuss. One is that the math pilot curriculum adoption is underway as of, I believe, last Wednesday. So we'll have more to update in the future on that. But I think we're really excited to kind of see what the teachers find as they implement it and think critically about those curricula they're testing out. We also talked about the ALP, or the Advanced Learning Plan. This is a program at Bartle, and currently it's implemented as a push-in program in 2nd and 3rd grade. It's embedded within the classroom as an enrichment curriculum. The ALP teacher enriches the curriculum in STEM in 2nd and 3rd grade. In 4th and 5th grade, it's a pull-out program. And the issue, a parent actually raised this with us about, can we extend the time for ALP in 4th and 5th grade? And can we actually do a pull-out program in 2nd and 3rd grade? So that's what we were talking about. And I think the issue is, if we did start to extend that in 4th and 5th, what would we be giving up? Would we be giving up more ELA time, more math time? It's not clear if we extended that, where that would come from. If we did a pull out in 2nd and 3rd grade, they'd be pulled out from some other content. So there are trade-offs with a lot of these things. I think one of the concerns we also discussed was that I think this relates a little bit to broader concerns about differentiation and the degree to which students' needs are being met across the spectrum. And then a related concern is who's opting in and who's opting out of enrichment opportunities. And so we talked about gathering some data to see. A couple years ago, we talked about this and wanted to be really transparent with parents about this program. And so we were curious to see if participation has shifted in the last maybe 2 years, since we've been trying to be intentionally communicating with parents about this, about who's participating or not. And so we're going to look at some of that data moving forward. But I think at this point in thinking about, we're looking at the program and considering these things. I think the concern is, as you extend something and you start pulling kids out, what are they not getting access to? At the same time, as we definitely want to meet differentiation and give all kids enrichment opportunities. And so I think that's something we're going to be looking at. moving forward. We did realize there was a link that was not accessible to parents, and so I think that is on our way to be fixed, giving them information about the program. That was the discussion around ALP. We also talked about some new policies. Some of these are revised and some of these are new. We're required to have a library material policy by the state. We also got some direction in terms of revising our resource material policies. You can probably imagine where some of this is coming from at the state level, where you're getting, I think, book bans, or people are complaining about certain curricula or books that are actually being included in lessons. I don't think we've faced that issue here. There have not been any requests I believe the district has received about removing books. But I think by the state, they're requiring policy be implemented around this. So if we think about resource materials, we're talking about books that are actually used in classroom as part of instruction. If we're talking about library material policy, we're talking about like the materials literally in the library. And so these are separate policies, but clearly quite related. There's some updates around the language for resource material policy and the regulation. We had some questions about some of that. And so I think it's really important we look at this in kind of more detail. Some things were recommended being removed from it and some things added. And we just had some concerns that in the policy, some of our kind of the values were kind of being removed. And just kind of thinking about, is that something we want to remove, or is that something we actually want to leave? And so we're, I think, checking a little bit with how much leeway we have in terms of these policies. And then there are a bunch of things kind of added in the regulation that have a lot of different specifications, and trying to figure out how much space we have to kind of define this. The library policy is new and required. Like I said, there were some nice things in terms of vested individuals. So this is not someone from outside the community who can actually request this. I think that's really important. That has actually played out at the Highland Park Library. I don't think we want other people coming in or community kind of requesting that something be banned. That would open up a huge can of worms. And so there's some nice kind of easy definitions as far as that. So how to be a parent of a student, a staff member, or a student in the district that can request that. The specification of a committee to review anything that was requested is pretty overbearing. It would be at least 7 people, including a board member, the superintendent or designee, principal. Like, I mean, it's pretty lengthy in terms of staff members, student, like rep. And that seemed a little overdone. And so we want some kind of clarification on how much we can kind of define this and maybe redefine it and limit some of that every time a request goes in. I also don't know if that is a Board of Ed person job. Like, I don't think that's really legally, that seems like a pretty sketchy space for a Board of Ed person to be in there deciding curriculum on a day-to-day basis. So that seems pretty odd to me too, that would be a recommendation from a policy body. Anyway, these are important, even though I don't think we've necessarily faced them. So I think there's something we need to take a look at and just make sure we're comfortable with the language and some of the procedures for kind of looking through those. We did also talk about chaperones on field trips. Right now, there's a background check, which I think we think makes sense. There's also a required TB test, and some people have said this is it's a little bit overbearing. We're not sure if that is required by our insurance, but we are looking into that. And so more on that in the future. And then the last thing we talked about were field trips. There were some updates in listing chaperones. The brothers mentoring groups are going to the middle school for cooking and the Zone 6 teen center as well. And Dead Center arts classes and Spanish classes are going to Grounds for Sculpture. And other than that, items for approval are approval of the field trip requests, approval of collaboration for the 7th grade science teacher with one of my colleagues, Dr. Ruby Duncan, to do a collaboration around science instruction, approval of university graduate students for teaching internships. We have 3 of those. Approval of class study for dissertation in the middle school. Approval of participation in the Teen Arts New Jersey program. Approval of supplemental instruction, home instruction for 1 student. Approval of home instruction for 3 students. And I have a read-in for number 8. I move that the Board of Education accept the recommendation of the superintendent to approve the opening of school on Eid-ul-Fitr on March 20th, 2026, which will be an early dismissal. This is to make up for the use of an emergency closed day, February 24th, 2026, today. So that's approval of updated district calendar. This is approval of updating district calendar to open the school on March 20th to replace the closure today.
We've used, in our school calendar, we have 2 days built in for emergency closures. Today was our 3rd emergency closure day. In order to not add on, like we're going to go away for a 3-day weekend with Juneteenth, and then we'd have to add a day on Monday to make up for this one. So I think oftentimes we try to go and just not close instead of adding days on at the end.
So March, I just want to be clear because it's not on here. March 20th is the day before they go on spring break?
No.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. And then the other option would be to do it at the end of the year.
Right.
Okay.
So that's my report. Any other discussion?
And just to clarify, is on the nurses, on the nursing clinical hours, was it being rescinded? I mean, she's in or out under,
She's out.
she's out.
Yeah.
We've approved her.
We approved her last month and
We're
not
rescinding it.
attending.
Okay. Thank you.
Dan, do you know where we are with getting clarification on the new resource library policy and the new regulation? What's the process there? Where are we at it? Or Christina might know. I just
Christina.
Would you like me to take this one?
Yeah.
Sure. So after the committee met, we had a couple of questions that were so 2 things were happening at the same time. Those same policies are also going to equity and excellence. So part of their report will be to share out some of what their thoughts are on it. And then the questions specifically more legal regarding what you can and cannot put in and take out have gone through legal. I have a response, and at our next month's meeting, I will share the response.
okay. Yeah, I mean, so after the meeting, I looked up, so the intent of these new regulations and policies, the ones that are proposed by this outside organization that we contract with, is to implement this Freedom to Read Act. And just reading the plain language, and the education department provides guidance to boards seeking to do this, right? So key statements the and this is taken directly from the Education Department website. The model policies may be adopted by local boards of education. Pursuant to legislation, the Department of Education is providing the model policies and removal request form for local boards of education to review and adopt accordingly. So my reading is a lot of flexibility. I just want to give a sense of what is suggested that we be deleting from our policies. Material will be suited to the varied interests, abilities, reading levels, and maturation levels of the students we serve. Whenever possible, materials will provide major opposing views on controversial issues so that students may develop and under guidance the practice of critical reading and thinking. That's all crossed out. I don't think that's the right way to go. And I think legislation, the guidance plainly says that we don't like it, we don't have to do it. As far as this committee goes, you know, one of the things that's drilled into us right from the beginning as board members is that we are not to interfere with administrative decisions. I don't want us or any other board telling kids what they can read and can't read. So I hope we can strike that as well.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I think what we found was that those, because I'm in full agreement, those specific languages were actually included in the regulation. So I think they just swapped them into what would be our guidance for how we implement the policy. So it looks like, based on what the review is, that they just put the language in the regulation instead of the policy, but you can certainly mirror that and include it in the policy as well. Yeah, the legal reference was more about the who can sit on a committee and how many people and things like that, just for clarification.
I have a question about the field trip chaperone, because I know this is something that parents have brought up in conversation a few times. With the background check, based on what I've been told, it seems like you have to go through a particular vendor, but we have many people that have already gone through extensive background checks for employment or certifications and things like that. So I'm curious if we can check with our insurance company to see if we can use those background checks in lieu of this particular vendor. Because if we already have, let's say, a teaching license in New Jersey, we've been fingerprinted, we've undergone that. Same thing for some of the levels of clearance and information from our state government that we get. I mean, as as board members, we go through a background check as well, right? And then some employers run extensive background checks. So that might help make this less restrictive for parents if we can find a way to kind of use one of those to meet the requirement.
Yeah, we're looking into that. All of that has gone through legal as well, and information will be provided at the next meeting.
Okay. Nikki, did you know you're doing equity and excellence?
You're up.
Equity and Excellence met on February 12th. It was myself, Monique, and Anne and Dr. Suska. We also reviewed those policies, the nepotism policy. Do you want me to read everything that we said? It's kind of the same thing that Dan read, but I mean, I can read it if you guys want to.
Up to you.
I mean, okay. So the minor updates to language about civil union and domestic partners. There was clarification about employment of relatives and need for approval from the superintendent. An optional provision excluding per diem substitutes and student employees who are relatives from the rule requiring county approval. The committee agreed it's a reasonable provision. The other one we went over was the employment of chief school administrator. This one was revised. Language updates and added references to the code/law. The committee requested more information about the statement requiring the superintendent to devote themselves exclusively to office. Dr. Suska will seek further clarification. Options for candidate qualifications, board established, criteria versus policy specific. Recommendation leaning toward flexible criteria set at time of search, and contract updates to comply with law, especially for early termination, nullification upon certification or revocation. The other policy we went over was the sexual harassment one. This is a new one, and it's replacing one that was abolished. It's it says, teaching and support staff policies, regulations are consolidated into a comprehensive mandatory policy inclusive of all staff. And it includes definitions and requirements under the Title VII and Title IX employee rights, responsibilities of employer to take steps to prevent sexual harassment, posting, and dissemination procedures, compliance and training, designating Title IX coordinator, which requires board approval. And Dr. Richardson and Mr. Mortellero, sorry, made suggestions for minor language updates and clarification around grievance, investigation, appeal process, including the timeline. For example, a 10-day response. Another one we went over was resource materials. This one was revised. It separates resource materials from library materials, adds detailed selection or removal processes. General policy language is more language. I'm not sure exactly what she means by that. Mixed opinions on how much detail to keep in the policy, and new library materials policy prompted by Freedom to Read Act supports diverse, inclusive collections, prohibits censorship based on origins views, and sets grievance and removal procedures requiring a review committee question from discussion. Is the committee membership a legal minimum? And okay, and the other thing that we discussed was the portal start times. I raised the concerns about early start times, possible negative effects, especially on neurodivergent students, noting issues with sleep readiness and equity. Excuse me. Dr. Cisco noted the lack of direct empirical research for elementary students. Administration tracks chronic attendance issues with demographic information and not reported issues with special ed students. Sorry. Higher level info isn't included to identify what supports are being given to parents to assist with tardiness. At Irving, students are tardy mostly miss the morning community building time. At Bartle, when students are tardy, this typically impacts the morning meeting, breakfast, and that kind of community building. Academics do not start until about 30 minutes after the bell, and Dr. Suska reiterated that all students receive breakfast regardless of attendance timing. Dr. Suska also noted that in their initial eval phase, Comeno found a disconnect between school avoidance patterns appearing in students with IEPs, but no supporting strategies identified or included in IEP. The administration is addressing this. And the suggestion, Dr. Suska will follow up with admin on adding data points to the spreadsheet around qualitative measures such as readiness to learn and existing data tracking. And also committed to continue gathering and sharing relevant data. She will check with the central leadership team for updates on school tardiness data shared by administration during the last meeting. Overall attendance has been very good the past few months at 96%, and no concerns were reported in previous meetings. We did discuss the AP honors data. There was a follow-up to a prior discussion and request for demographic breakouts of AP honors participants who are also classified as low SES. Dr. Suska presented data on students in AP honors classes by race, socioeconomic status, gender, and disability, as well as STEM versus non-STEM participation among underrepresented student groups. Of the AP honors students who are also classified as low SES, free and reduced lunch students, 38% were white and Hispanic, 18% non-white Hispanic, white non-Hispanic, 11% were African American, 28% are Asian, and 1.4% American Indian and Hispanic. Approximately 25% of Asian AP honor students are SES, 40% of Black students, less than 10% of white students, inclusive of Hispanic and non-Hispanic. The noted disparities in STEM versus non-STEM AP honors participation among underrepresented groups. Closer to the general population demographics for students who are in non-STEM AP honors. Dr. Susko also shared a few support strategies that are under development. Counselors plan to increase data tracking and support for gifted and talented ALP students at the elementary school and encourage them to take AP honors courses when they transition to high school. The AP honors inventory checklist has been shared with parents and students and will be added to the freshman orientation materials. And reorganization of the peer-to-peer program to provide stronger peer support from freshman class. Guidance counselors are also encouraging advanced course enrollment. Dr. Susko will review the present ALP demographic and participation data at the next meeting. Committee inquiry around addressing access opportunities and racialized academic disparities through means beyond ALP, including reading group practices. And we also went over the disciplinary chart and the in-school out-of-school suspension chart for January. Bartle had 18 incidents, some involving special education, Black, Hispanic, and low SES students, 3 out-of-school suspensions. Middle school had 23 incidents, including marijuana use and aggression, 2 out-of-school suspensions. High school had 43 incidents, lower than prior months. Main concerns were attendance cutting and aggressive behavior. There were 5 in school and 1.5 out of school suspensions, and support interventions in place for students with repeated or severe incidents. And that is the report.
I have a couple questions. One is that employment of the chief school administrator? Is that saying they can only work in the district, can't consult, can't teach? Is that the kind of question in terms of?
Yeah, so when I took it to legal, because we had questions around that, because it says optional, and then it was just a very blanket statement, so I didn't even know what it meant. So when I brought it to legal, they said it would be that it's like no consult, no like adjuncting, no, consulting work or anything like that. It's like exclusive here, and then that's it.
So I would suggest not including that.
So I figured I would bring that back to committee next month, and then you all can decide what you would like to do with that.
Yeah, especially since the last 2 superintendents here have both adjuncted as well, and consulted, I'm sure, and all those kind of things. So I think it would put us in a pretty bad position for, down the road if we need another superintendent, but even with our current superintendent, to kind of limit them in that way. That's what I was wondering. It was like, don't adjunct, don't consult, don't do anything that is pretty limiting. And the other thing question I had was around the AP. So I wasn't totally sure if I was reading these numbers right. So the approximately 25% of Asian AP honor students are SES. Is that supposed to be low SES?
Yeah.
Okay. And then 40% of Black students are low SES. Okay. I just want to make sure I was reading that right.
Sorry. All right. Finance and facilities met on February 10th. The first thing we discussed was an update on our health benefits search or potential search. We had Tom Tafuri from our insurance broker, Brown & Brown, attend, as he wanted to present what is going on in the market. Currently, he does project a 20 to 25% increase in our health benefit premiums. And the reason is because the public market is seeing increases of 20 to 40%, and the private market is also seeing increases, some 30 to 50%, and there have been private market increases as high as 99%. This is due to the impact of hospital reimbursement demands, largely because of GLP-1s that are used solely for weight loss, such as Zepbound and Wegovy. This does not include any GLP-1s that are used for diabetes. So our prescription reimbursements are trending higher than what they have typically seen. They're right now trending at an 85% increase. So Tom has sent our data to all markets, and we are waiting to hear back. I don't know, Denise, if you have an update on that. Nope, we're still waiting to hear back. We are expecting a lot of declined quotes because of the loss ratio. that we have experienced. It is likely that our current provider, Horizon, will negotiate against itself. We also need to consider some options to address the prescription costs. Two options discussed was to provide medical only and release these drugs, perhaps under a self-insuring model or a direct access model, which Brown & Brown does have a program for. Basically, you keep access to those particular drugs and you get them direct from the manufacturer. We would then subsidize that drug and the patient would get it straight from the manufacturer, and that cuts out that third-party pharmacy, and there's cost savings in that. The time frame for renewing this plan or changing the plan is flexible. We do have to give a 30-day notice to Horizon. We expect to get quotes within 2 weeks, although this was 2 weeks ago, so we expect to get quotes at some point. And we'll likely, hopefully, have a plan to select by the end of March. We did discuss changing coverage criteria for these GLP-1s as Horizon has changed the criteria for state municipal plans. We cannot do that without negotiations, and that is not going to be something that we negotiate. Our current plan is modeled after the state plan for teachers and staff, right? So they have not had any changes in coverage for these particular GLP-1s like the municipal plan has. So our plan must maintain the same sort of benefit. Other districts are seeing about a 30-40% increase. So, you know, we'll kind of see what comes, but we are prepared for this particular increase. There are some things that we can do with our budget that do allow for some movement in terms of the tax levy, but that's something that we have to discuss as a board, and that will be discussed probably upcoming. We also had department budget reviews. I'm just going to summarize some things that we took away from that because these are really highly tentative. So Amy Coppola presented her proposed educational services budget, and student needs have shifted some costs. Overall, the out-of-district costs look to be decreased by 4%, while in-district service costs have increased, and those increases in those costs are related to greater needs for specialized services such as speech therapy, extraordinary services like one-to-one nursing and behavioral services and bilingual supplies, and also increases the expanded use of assistive and communication supports and our investments in inclusive and specialized programs. The director of curriculum attended, and she shared that there's less curriculum writing funding for this year. And we're better able to work with what we have in terms of curriculum for humanities, meaning ELA social studies. And we are good with supplies. So that is something that we will see reflected in the upcoming budget. The supervisor of STEM also, well, actually Michelle, supervisor humanities, relayed the supervisor of curriculum's budget. There is less funding going to be allocated for the curriculum overall, but two highlights are going to be Algebra 1 and 2 will need revision, as ALP will also be revised. And in addition to any new course curriculum writing, a lot of PD money will be set aside for 6 to 12 math coaching and workshops to continue to support that instruction, and also for K to 5 curriculum, which is going to be determined by the pilot that we're doing now. There's been no significant changes in technologies. Facilities is going to focus on a diverse maintenance repairs, focusing on some long-standing maintenance issues that have been neglected over time. Some major costs may include fire alarm system repairs, replacement of a galvanized water pipe, and the installation of four-way cameras. The athletic budget was kind of new for me. So we looks like the budget might include some more assistance for football, so that there's the ideal ratio of kids to coach. Adding a medical cart on the sidelines, most of those districts have one. Supply costs have increased for those supplies, for just not only the athletic supplies, but medical supplies as well. One of the things that we should start talking about is the need to replace varsity uniforms. Dr. Mortellaro, I always get the consonants mixed up, I'm very sorry, proposed a reset through all new varsity uniform purchases. This does not have to do with the appearance of the, like they don't want to buy new uniforms so they look nice. But what it comes down to is compliance, equity, and growth of the program and participation. So he explained that he evaluated the programs over the last 7 months, and it was clear that the uniform system was fragmented and outdated, operating at a staggered reactive model rather than a structured replacement cycle. Some uniforms do not meet compliance, so teams can get penalties for this, and this directly affects competition. Students have brought to his attention how uniforms are not equitable. For example, boys will get Nike and girls will get some off-brand uniforms, and he emphasized brands should be consistent. Parents have also been concerned about the quality and fit of uniforms. Some teams never received a full uniform or would have to choose like a component. Like this year, we want to get socks and then have to kind of build the rest of their uniform using their personal funds. And in some sports, they have not consistently been provided home and away uniforms. So he is proposing a full reset, as phasing this over years would perpetuate some of those consistency and equity issues that affect competition. But this is something that we have to, as we discuss the upcoming budget, kind of think about. And I know that that's still something that is up for discussion. Negative lunch balances have increased to $55,463.87. These continue to increase. We have been assured by our auditor that we are doing everything above and beyond to try to get these balances paid. I know that also during the county budget review, our county did say they would bring our need and the need of other districts like us to the state's attention. One of the things that actually we kind of came up in side conversation was that when students do get, or parents rather, get notifications consistently about their debts, sometimes they then unenroll themselves from getting alerts. And we want to just kind of put it out there that we would prefer parents and families not do this, because the alerts also go out for emergencies. Shelter in drill notification, lockdown drill notification also go through that system. So we just wanted to remind the community, if you did unenroll because you don't want to get the notifications about lunch balances, you are also missing out on emergency notifications. Some facility projects updates. We looked at, we talked about the baseball field. Again, that's almost done. Our structural repairs at Bartle are still being done. The Bartle toilet room is done, almost done. So some of the board members will be touring. Our pre-K classroom renovation bid work was going to begin the Friday before spring break. And our sustainability project with the HPEF, the draft of this is ongoing, but it's going to propose some shared space for the middle school and high school. So a maker space at the high school, but then also a sustainability center at the middle school in the old home ec room. So those details are still being ironed out. Okay, going to move on to our action items. Number 1 is approval of bill list. 2, treasurer's report. 3, board secretary's report. 4 is the board of Ed certifications. 5 is budget transfers. 6 is the approval of the travel and related expense reimbursements report. 7 is the approval of contractors for the professional developments listed, inspired instruction for offsite curriculum support for applications of algebra. This one is a pass-through for the Jewish New Teacher Project. And then we also have Enza Mullicraft for Zumba sessions with 9th and through 12th graders. And that's just a correction of cost. This was on a previous agenda. We have number 8 is approval of bedside instruction for 4 students. Number 9 is the approval of an out-of-district tuition contract with East Brunswick Public Schools, and number 10 as well. Number 11 is a pass-through for non-public technology purchase for Renee Spice-Yakob School. Number 12 is also a pass-through non-public technology purchase for Children's House Montessori. Number 13 is the approval of the submission for that local recreation grant we discussed at the last board meeting. There was just additional wording added to that. Number 14 is the approval for proposal of additional structure and engineering services. This one is for unit vents. Number 15 is the approval for wall padding replacement at the high school gymnasium. That's funded through that tax levy aid. Number 16 is to approve to amend the long range facilities plan, which includes the following projects. Fire alarm system replacement at Bartle, cupola repairs and refurbishment at Highland Park High School, exterior lighting replacement at Highland Park High School and Highland Park Middle School, Bartle Elementary School and Irving Elementary School, and the boiler replacement at Bartle Elementary. Number 19 is the approval for proposal for lighting in the mechanical room and utility rooms at Bartle. Number 10 is the approval of a change order and increase in the contract amount for the structural repairs at Bartle. And number 19 is tabled. Any questions for finance and facility? Yeah.
Are number 7, are any of those pass-throughs?
I don't think all of them are pass-throughs, just B.
B is okay.
Just
yeah,
B.
right.
I had a question when it comes to the, the budget. We're talking about a lower curriculum budget. That's also partially, we've invested
Yes.
very heavily in that
Yeah.
over previous years.
Yeah. So when you see like the lower curriculum budget for humanities, so much work has been put in over the last 3 years to revise that curriculum already and to bring that up to, current best practice. That's just sustaining that. So any new teachers that will be hired, let's say, of course, will be provided funding for, learning the foundations program, which all the other teachers have been trained in. And then, of course, they also adjust curriculum based on, what needs arise during that time period. So a lot of what we're dealing with now with the humanities component is just good systems in place and good curriculum in place that can be sustained.
And sort of similarly, we're doing this large investment in the math curriculum, like in the math pilot right now, right? So
Right.
it's not that.
Correct. So ELA has had its time, so to speak. And now it's the maths program's time to shine. So there will be a larger investment this year once the district determine how it wants to move forward. And that's typical with what you see is, once you purchase a curriculum or you purchase a program, sometimes there are renewal licenses that you need every year, but sometimes it just is materials that become ingrained in your curriculum and you just need to reproduce it.
Similarly, on the Bartle bathroom, I guess we were supposed to be doing that today and the buildings were closed and yesterday. So I'll forward everybody. Dr. Cisco wants to invite everybody on Friday. So I will let you all know the time and whoever can join. Come see the fancy new bathroom.
My boys are very excited about the fancy. Dr. Schoolman stole my microphone. Like the record to reflect that.
That's it for me.
What the motivation for this crime was.
Okay, well then I guess we'll move on to our second public comment. Oh, I have to go. Okay, so for personnel, we have approval of leaves of absence, approval of a couple of resignations, approval of appointments. A lot of, yeah, a lot of volunteer coaches for sports, which is fantastic, and preschool registration as that's opening up. Approval of transfers. And then we have, as we were talking about, approval of math program evaluation. So this is approval for the teachers who are taking part in the math curriculum pilot to be appropriately trained in the curriculum. Okay, and then for policies and regulations, we have some policies for abolishment. We have policies and regulations for first reading, nepotism, sexual harassment staff, public complaints and grievances. And that's, yeah. 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 Okay, so now we're going to move on to our second public comment section of the evening. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Is there anyone here in person who'd like to speak? Okay. And how many people do we have on? Okay. Is there, if you'd like to speak on your online, please raise your hand. Going once? Okay. With that, we'll close public comment and move on to board action items.
Items 1 through 8. 8 was the read-in about the approval of the updated school calendar.
Second.
Dr. Beatty.
I'm yes, except I'm abstaining from 3B and 4.
Ms. Cassell Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado. Ms. Prus.
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman.
Yes.
Ms. Stanio.
Abstain from 5, no to 8, and yes to everything else.
Ms. Bardman.
Yes.
For finance and facilities, I'd like to move numbers 1 through 18.
Second.
Dr. Beatty.
Yes.
Ms. Cassell Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado.
Yes.
Ms. Prus.
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman.
Yes.
Ms. Stanio.
Yes.
Ms. Bardman.
Yes. Okay, and then for personnel, I move 1 through. Oh, there's so many hands. 5. 1 through 5.
Second.
Dr. Beatty.
Yes.
Ms. Cassell Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado.
Yes.
Ms. Prus.
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman.
Yes.
Ms. Stanio.
Yes.
Ms. Bardman.
Yes. And then on policies and regulations, I move 1 and 2.
Second.
Dr. Beatty,
Yes.
Ms. Caselda,
Yes.
Mr. Maldonado, Ms. Prus,
Yes.
Dr. Schoolman,
Yes.
Ms. Stanio.
Yes.
Ms. Vardaman.
Yes. Okay, now we can move on to board liaison report.
I have a report from Board of Health from Monique.
Okay.
They met on February 12th. And Monique spoke with the chair, Sarah Kelly. She shared info on the district's recently approved head lice and bed bug policy with the Board of Health. And their agenda, things that they'd like to discuss at their next meetings, things they're working on, I guess, are e-bike safety for students, getting student reps on the Board of Health, which would be a great opportunity for student engagement with the Board of Health. Sarah Kelly has already contacted Ms. Asamoah to get that possibly moving. Board of Health has a budget and would like to use some of it to buy lice combs. That was already communicated to Dr. Suska, and the amount of combs that we need has been shared with the Board of Health. So they would donate lice combs for our nurses. And then another topic that they're looking into also is chronic absenteeism and mental health. The next Board of Health meeting is March 12th.
I have a HPF report. The HPF, the Highland Park Education Foundation, met last Tuesday. I attended. They are fundraising. For those not familiar with the organization, they are a nonprofit that raises funds for student enrichment activities here in the district. The big things that they generally help pay for are the Camp Mason trip that the fifth graders take every year. They also have been helping with transportation costs for field trips. I think that their fundraising has been down the last couple of years, so I'm just going to give a plug for their fundraising. You can go donate money to them at hpefnj.org. It's important that you do hpefnj.org because there's another Highland Park School District in Texas, and they also have a Highland Park Education Foundation. You may want to give to them as well, but I feel like you should prioritize the local kids, and you can actually set up a recurring donation on the website. So if you don't have $100 now, you could do a monthly $10 or $15, and that will help them stabilize their fundraising efforts a little bit. So, and they're having a 80s dance party fundraiser at Pino's in April. I don't know the month, but it should be fun.
Just a reminder that the next and last focus group for the Comegno evaluation is tomorrow at 6 p.m. This focus group is virtual, so you may attend from the comfort of your own home or mobile office, as we like to call our commutes home. We encourage any parent or caregiver of any student, does not have to be a student receiving special education services. It can be parents of general education students, students with 504s, any grade, to come to tomorrow's focus group. And there is a registration link that had been emailed in some previous Superintendent Friday emails, but you can also find the link on the flyer that is on the HPCPAG portion of the website.
The Commission for Universal Access is actually meeting tomorrow at 5:30. It's hybrid, so you in the fishbowl in the town center. I want to say town center. No, municipal building. I didn't have those words. Or you can also join virtually. Our interim director of special services, Amy Coppola, will be attending and talking about Glow Juniors, CPAG, Buddy Ball, as well as I think the commission is interested in possibly sending kids to We Rock the Spectrum, which used to be Gym for All. And so I think that'll be a discussion point. So if you are interested in any of those or want to see Amy Coppola talk about the district, please, you are welcome to go. Tomorrow, Wednesday at 5:30.
I actually attended virtually the Middlesex County School Boards Association meeting, since I am their delegate apparently, our delegate. And just hitting some topics. So Vin Gopal was speaking there, and also Daniel Harris, the chief of staff for Vin Gopal, I guess. And for the Assembly Education Committee. Just some of the topics which were interesting that I was talking about was there was a lot of talk from other districts about pilot projects in their communities and communities that are not receiving funds from construction projects that are pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes. There is a bill up to look at pilots and getting money to school districts. So there's some bill moving through that might affect that. And we certainly had that conversation here and are receiving pilot money for one project in town, but other districts are also struggling with that. A lot of talk, I guess, with this new administration about consolidations, districts consolidating their efforts or consolidating really small districts to save money. And the biggest thing was which obviously has since happened, there's a delay of the release of the budget. And at that point, the consideration for the 2-week delay for the budget release, and then a 2-week extension for us to submit our budget. And that was a conversation going on there. That's it. That's at least all I wrote down.
I'll just do, on behalf of the Highland Park Athletic Boosters, one last pitch for designer bag bingo on March 6th. Last I heard, there was only one table left. Don't know if that's the case, but also if you are not interested in designer bags, they also have a raffle to win a Apple MacBook. They only sell 100 tickets. So you have a 1 in 100 chance of winning. So, donate $25 and maybe win a computer. Okay, old business. New business. I move that we adjourn. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.